record when we walk in the room, and then we can edit as we go.
All right. How are? Okay, I know you already hit record.
Yeah, don't. I mean,
Okay.
never gonna get into it.
All right. All right. So I guess let's just go ahead and start, and we can just go from there.
Cool. I should have done the countdown. We can do a countdown. We probably should start doing a countdown so we know what we're doing.
Okay. All
Hmm.
right.
I think
Doing the
there's a
countdown.
way. Yeah, they have like a 30-second countdown. I feel like maybe if we'd start at the 30-second countdown, then we'd be like, oh, okay, we know exactly when we need to start talking.
Okay. We're gonna do that next time.
Yeah, not today.
Okay.
But
All right.
next
So
time I'll start at 30 seconds. I'm like, wake up, girl. Okay.
we on the bus today. I feel it. I feel it.
We are on a
It's gonna
struggle
be
bus.
interesting.
I'm
All
tired. I
right.
need to wake up. I feel tired. That's what it is.
I'm Ugh. All right. All right. So let's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good morning, and welcome to Letting Go with Grace. I am your host, Dr. Tasha.
And Coach Portia here today. How you guys doing?
Nikki, I think it was a glitch. I don't know. For some, when
On that
you
start.
started it hmm.
Oh, yeah. Let's do it again.
All right. Good morning, and welcome back to Letting Go with Grace. I am your host, Dr. Tasha.
And I'm Coach Portia.
And as you can see today, we tired. So let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that so many times we tell ourselves that we have to show up and perform and do all of these things. And yes, I absolutely love hopping on this podcast and spending this time with Coach Portia. But my soul is tired. Body is
Oh, yeah.
tired. So let's just talk about um like, how do we deal with just being tired and what is happening? Why are we tired? On today's episode of Letting Go. So, if you are new here, welcome, welcome to the community.
Mhm. Yes,
Um,
welcome.
yes, please like and subscribe. Though we are tired and we are here, we are so excited about all the future things that keep popping up and filling up our calendar. So, forever grateful
Mm-hmm.
for all of
Mm-hmm.
those things. So please say
Yes.
something that inspires you. Share it with somebody, share it with your friend, share it with your girlfriend, and invite her on over to the Letting Go community.
Yes, 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 yes. I
All right.
absolutely love the fact that you were like, we're tired. I think we forget, like, I feel like we forget sometimes. And we want to project this perfection on people, like, most of the time you see certain platforms, social media, podcasts, and you see this perfect set, right? With all the lighting, and you see, the makeup, and you see everything perfect. And there's this assumption that that's the way life really is. Like, oh, these people have it together all the time. Like, look at them, they got it together. And behind those scenes, those people are actually human and they still have struggles. And they may have had a hard time getting on their podcast this morning. They're just not comfortable enough for you to be able to see it. So, the beauty of this podcast and this letting go with Grace community is the authenticity of the people who are talking to you. And there's no
Yes.
projection of this perfection happening here, where it's just like these two ladies are just so perfect. We just want to be like them. I want to normalize, and I've said this a bunch lately, just normalizing the human experience of life that says that you're not going to be on all the time, but you still push, you're not going to feel like doing it, but you still persevere. And I feel like we in that persevering this morning. Like I'm gonna push past the fact that I'm a little bit tired, and I'm gonna show up because I said that I would, and I'm a woman of my word, and I'm gonna
Yeah,
push past this part in hopes of giving somebody something that they can use.
absolutely. Amen.
For sure.
Hallelujah.
High five to the community. Y'all, we be tired. We be tired. Listen, mask off, cape off. Your girl be tired sometimes. I'm just saying. Stayed up late taking them braids down is all I gotta say. So yeah.
In real life. And I think that as I was listening to you talk about pushing, and so I think that this is a different type of push. I believe that I am in a season of my life that is requiring me to walk, um, but not the world's way, not that hustle grind mentality. But there's still a day to day, like you wake up and because I am a woman of integrity and I do what I say I'm going to do, um, but learning how to do that without the shame. So I'm
Hmm.
gonna just share this with y'all, right? So, um, 2020, I had medically induced menopause. Didn't nobody tell me what to be expecting and what was gonna be happening with my body. And here I am 4 years later, and though I have come, I mean, it got really deep and dark, and just the not knowing, especially for a person who needs to know everything and
Hmm.
learning my body over, and I'm still trying to figure out my body. But this so with my body, and then also just I feel like some spiritual stuff is also happening in my life as well. Um, and so I have sleep. I don't even know what that is. Like
Mm.
I'm praying for sleep. I'm scheduled like at 9 o'clock. I'm like, okay, I'm 8:30, lay it down, get my prescription in, and I'm like, Jesus, please just let me sleep through the night.
Mm.
Lay down at 9:30, at 10:30, I'm up.
Oh.
So I'm like, okay, all right. I may hop on the TV. What's the first thing we do? Grab our phones. Um, I may finally fall back to sleep between 11:30, 12 o'clock. I'm up. And I'm every hour, and this has been going on for the last month. I'll tell you, girls,
Mm.
I'm tired.
Mm.
So I think menopause for some of that, and some of it is the just the stress of the I'm learning to embrace change, um, and so I know we had this conversation yesterday, Portia, just talking about not having a next, right? And so when I also hopped out in private practice in 2020 as well. So navigating that, and so this is my first year of not having anything else, but all the books, all the training, all of the coaching I paid for, all of the tens of $1,000s that I spent says that my money should look a different way right now.
That part. That part.
Should look a different way. And then they don't teach you about, okay, yeah, getting in private practice, yeah, that's what you want. However, they don't teach you about them being a leadership, the art of leadership in the practice. Right? And so the extra responsibilities that you take on, right? So now I'm hiring employees, I have interns. And of course, I'm concerned about them, and I want to make sure that the business is able to gross a certain amount of money because I want to make sure that they are able to be paid well. And then the business is not looking, right?
Mm.
So there was a blueprint, and the business is not looking the way that it ain't looking like it need to be looking.
Mm.
Um, And so the stress and pressure of that. And now the impact of that on my household.
Mhm.
Right. And so it's like this domino effect.
Mhm.
And I don't know about y'all, but in me, the first thing that I do is like, God, did I do something wrong? I go right. I go to the is it did I do it right? Because if I do right, then there should be a reward and there should be proof of the right. And then the thought of when you're sinning and then there's this punishment or whatever. So I'm like, God, I've been obedient and I just don't know if I see the fruit of the obedience. And so I was there probably in mid January. I've slowly transitioned to okay, nope, I'm gonna trust you with this one too. I don't know. Yep, my body is reacting. I feel the stress. I feel the pressure. But I'm like, I'm tired, so I don't want to go to the gym because that's usually where I can kind of relieve. I'm like, but I'm sleepy. So I just every little hour I got, I just want to go take a nap
That part.
because I know I ain't gonna be sleeping. And then I want to be alert and and present when my family get home. So like any pocket, I'm napping. I don't want to work
Right.
out. And so that's just so I'm trying to embrace this this season of my life and trying to I'm not trying to understand it anymore. Like I gave up on that understanding. But I'm trying to position myself differently. So I'm trying to be vulnerable. So, in those moments where I'm like, this suck, God, what are we doing?
Mhm.
Uh, I say that, but then in the same moment, I feel like, but I'm okay. I
Mhm.
know you got me. I'm gonna be okay. And I don't know what I'm learning, but I want to learn it. So I'm gonna embrace it. And then in the next breath, I'm like, I changed my mind, and this suck. And then I get in my head and say, well, okay, no, I want to do this better. I don't want to be a mess.
Mhm.
I'm always a mess when I go through these things. I'm like, I don't want to be a mess. So
Mhm.
let me just find a rhythm to
Right.
this.
Right.
Um, and so I'm gonna share this, and then I'm gonna let you talk. I pulled up the when I when I finally quit my job, my career for over 10 years. There was a devotion. So I had prayed like God had been telling me like it's time, it's time, it's time. And so I was like, okay, God, if you really asking me to do that, to walk out and to move forward, like I need something. Like I need a definite issue. And so I looked at, I pulled up my devotional, and the devotional says, so I have been saying it says because I said so. I looked it up today, I mean, last week, and it says because you said so, right?
Hmm.
And so it talks about when, help me, you're gonna have to help me with names, and I know them, but I can't. Okay. When they were in Luke, and they were fishing all night, right? And they had pushed like Jesus, like, let me borrow one of the boats. I'm gonna preach and talk to people while I'm out in the water. And then after he finished, he's like, hey, cast your nets out.
Mhm.
And was it Papa? Who was that? Who was he talking
Peter.
to? Well, I can't remember.
Peter. Peter.
I'm like, Peter, Papa, who was it? Peter.
One of them.
Uh
One of the peas in the
yeah,
Bible.
yes. So Peter was like, oh God, like we've been fishing all night long. I mean, we tired. We ain't caught nothing. We had just been out here. We ain't caught nothing. He was like, yeah, cast it out again.
Mhm.
Um, and Peter said, because you said so,
Right.
I'll do it.
Mhm.
And like I was reminding God, like I'm like, yeah, like this. So I'm on this journey because you said so, right? You told me to leave. You told me to cast my net out. Um, And so I had to do two things. So remembering, because in this season it feels like I'm not catching it. It doesn't look Like it doesn't look beneficial. The casting the net out again. But then I had to remember like other seasons of my life, like seasons of my life during the pandemic. I had no clients, um, and he found a way where rent was paid for the whole year, like
Mhm.
mortgage being paid for the whole year.
Mhm.
And so I had to just stop and remember,
Mhm.
like, you good. I don't know what this is about, and you don't have to know.
Right.
And and you good, and we good, and it don't feel good, and you okay, and you're tired, and you okay, we good.
Yeah. I'm just thinking back to the story you were just talking about with Peter and casting the net and how he said he would do it because he told him to. Like I'm basically, I've done all I can, and I tried as hard as I could, and I didn't yield any benefits to it. And the fact that it wasn't in this "I trust you, Lord" sense that Peter recasted the net. It wasn't like joyfully surrendering to it. It was more like, okay, yeah, I'll do it in discipline. I mean, in obedience. In obedience, I'll do it.
Hmm.
But I've been out here all night. And keep in mind, he told him, I've been out here all night, I've been casting nets. And basically, what he's saying is, ain't nothing out here. We've been out here all night. What you asking me to do makes no sense, but okay. If you say it, fine. It it's not it's not him saying in this gleeing trust in God that I trust and believe that you're gonna do it. It was more like, okay, if that's what you say, okay, you know. At least in my mind, that's the way I hear it. That's the way I hear Peter's response.
Hmm.
And the reason why I bring that up and the reason why I say it the way I just did is because we typically, when we have these moments where we're not sure, we wonder if it's our faith that's preventing us from doing things. Like your faith is weighing because you are not completely and totally in glee and trusting God. And I don't believe it's really that way. Like
Hmm.
the whole idea that you have so much trust all the time that you are walking in this peaceful place and you're never having to remind yourself of the peace that you're supposed to have is when you look at the stories and the characters, you recognize, oh no, they had moments, many moments where they weren't quite sure, and God had to bring them back, and he had to instill his own. It's funny, he had to instill trust in him into them.
Yeah.
He had to instill trust in him into them. He had to do it. He had to give them the strength to trust him. It wasn't this, and many times they had to experience many miracles to begin to develop a relationship of trust. It wasn't like he came on the scene and was like, and I always wonder like, why did you do so many miracles? Like, what was that for? He was creating an environment of trust by showing them his hand. This is who I really am, guys. And for a while, they didn't believe him. And then after a while, it was like, wait a minute, I know I was there when he fed all them people with the fish and two loaves. I was there. And now you have these experiences where you're reminding yourself of the moments that he did show up, and your trust is more grounded in your experience with him and less in the words that he's saying to you. Like that is the process of life and how we go about it. And he shows us these little miracles. Um, First off, I want to acknowledge the fact that you're exhausted. Like let me just start there. Um,
That
because I
part.
think sometimes as Black women, we dismiss ourselves and we dismiss what we're going through for the sake of continuing on and never really honoring where we are. And if we don't honor it, I was just thinking about this morning as I was laying in the bed. It's like this pressure cooker, and you constantly pushing down your emotions and you pressing them down because you got to keep going and put one foot in front of the other. And what typically happens with a pressure cooker is it bursts at some point because you didn't let it seep out the way it needed to in order for it not to burst. So when you're
Mm-hmm.
not giving your emotions sound, when you're not acknowledging them, they will be acknowledged. They will force themselves out at some point. You will not be able to continue that way. At some point, you will be heard, whether it
Yes.
be a seeping or blow up. It's coming out because it has
Yeah,
to. And so I think if
absolutely.
we get into the space where we allow our emotions to seep in a comfortable and safe environment that we feel comfortable and safe in, we won't have to deal with the blow ups, and the people around us won't have to deal with the catastrophic blow up as a result of us not being willing to just go ahead and say how we feel. So, first off, normalizing the fact that, yes, ma'am, you tired, and it sounds like a lot. And that's a lot going on for you, Dr. Tasha. And the idea of having to deal with so much right now is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It is a lot. That's a lot of pressure. That's a lot to think about. And me knowing you as an overthinker and an overachiever, your mind has been going 90 to nothing, and that in itself is exhausting. So trying to get a resolution to something that you circumstances that you can't necessarily control. So let me say that first, you know.
Thank you. I
You
appreciate you
know.
holding that space for me.
Yeah, cuz it's a lot out here. And then and like you always say um the courage to continue to push past it and try to find that I always call it the gold strip that is God's miracle in between the light and darkness. And I am a true believer that there's good and bad happening simultaneously, and we get the choice to perceive what we want to perceive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so sometimes the focus on what we would perceive as air quotes bad, because it's loud, typically bad is loud and it's screaming at us, it requires our attention because it's so loud, and we have to be intentional about seeing good sometimes. But I've
Yes.
been in this phase this year, and God gave me this word in the beginning of the year, which was gratitude. And I didn't know how we were going to use that term and how He was going to use it. Um, your first thought is, "Oh, gratitude. I'm gonna have a lot of things to be thankful for." Yes, you always have things to be thankful for, ma'am. But I've
Yeah.
noticed that in my prayer time, when I would normally be complaining and crying out and why is it like this and whoa my God, the whole thing we do, that there's this sense in me to find an area where I can be grateful. What is it that I know but what are you grateful for? What is
Yes.
what is the thank you in this moment? What is it? What could you thank me for? What could you thank life for? What could you thank you for? Because there's always a thank you. There's always a thank you. You still breathe, and there's a thank you. And so I'm learning how to use gratitude. I'm learning how to use it.
Yes. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. And I think that so two things that I'm learning in this season as I journey. And so I think my body is, and so I think when we talk about um like mindfulness practices, and that's just the art of being still enough to understand and present with the moment,
Hmm.
um so that you can pay attention to what is happening. And so what I'm learning in this season is true mindfulness. Um, and so I think the reason Peter was able to throw out the net again is because he had built up a trust relationship with God. So it's the trust and the thankfulness. And so I'm learning the art of trust. Right? And so there's a new level of trust. So I think each time they experienced the miracle, it gave them a new level of trust, a
Hmm.
different experience to say, okay, yeah, it anchored them in their ability to say, you are who you say you are.
Yeah.
So because you said so,
He
because you
becomes
are who you
credible.
are.
Yeah, he's credible now. Like I, yeah, I can trust you. Yeah.
I'm gonna trust you. I'm gonna throw it out again. Um, and so what I'm learning in this season is my body is doing what my body is doing. What my body has always done when we experienced air quotes fight or flight. This is scary. You don't have any control. So
Mhm.
my body and my brain are doing what they've always done. And so I'm more mindful where I used to just operate in it, right? Where I would find myself just popping off and going off on everybody and trying to control and telling everybody, being out in everybody else's business, taking on everybody else's responsibilities, um, going, all of that stuff,
Mhm.
having a list and telling everybody this is what y'all need to be doing, pushing people when they don't want to be pushed. Um, So I feel it in my body. My body is like, I feel the tension. I feel areas where anxiety would come from there at times. Um, and so I even had an episode where I felt like I'm like, I can feel the anxiety and I feel like I'm having this panic attack. And so I found myself doing the things, and then, I reached out, and then the day after, what I realized is like, no, my body is responding to this unknown
Mhm.
in. And so I'm anchoring myself in trust. So, and okay, this is the right. And so what I'm realizing that this mindfulness is just allowing it to happen. I don't have to react to what's happening in my body. And so what I'm allowing my body to do, and I think we talked about this last week, right, is where we take it from the fight or flight,
Mhm.
scary, you need to control it, um, anchoring myself in trust.
Mhm.
I know what you can do. I know what you say you're going to do.
Mhm.
So if you said so, I'm going to do it. Right. Um, and then I'm finding places to be grateful. Like, so I'm grateful to be like, oh, I feel this all in my body. Um, I don't know what's going to happen. It's impacting my sleep. it's it's that pressure cooker. So I think things are leaking out because it's showing me a pattern of this is how you've been coping. This is your life of coping with these stressful situations. These are things that you use to numb these situations. And so it's almost highlighting all of
Mhm.
these things. And so I'm like, oh, wow, thank you. I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I'm able to see it. And
Mhm.
I'm grateful that now it's slowing down enough that I can choose whether I want to engage in it or not with
Mhm.
no judgment, no judgment. So having that compassion, um, having a lot of grace, right? And then he's giving me the grace because this feels impossible, right? And he's like, my grace is sufficient. I will
Mhm.
give you the strength to do what is impossible. And so I am exhausted, and I ain't gonna lie. I'm ready for the season to end. uh, but I'm just learning, and I'm allowing myself to. I ain't gonna lie, I'm a nap because I wake up so early. So I will take me a nap at 7:30 in the morning once I drop the little off on the bus stop.
Mhm.
But I'm talking about in the middle of the day, I'm like, child, I'm about to go take a nap.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, what do I need? What do I need to take care of myself? I'm gonna do as much as I can do. I'm not putting all this pressure on myself. I'm just, I'm not. I'm tired. I'm exhausted, and you know what? When I hear God tell me something, or just the things that I know I need to do, I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna see my clients. I'm gonna take care of my business. We're gonna do the homework. But I ain't doing nothing extra.
Mhm.
I don't want to be invited to nothing. I'm just like, I don't know. Please don't invite me, y'all, because I'm tired. I don't want to be at your thing being. being Debbie Downer. I want to be. I can't sleepy. I'm being going to sleep. So I appreciate it. So I'm also learning how to set those boundaries and just say no, just the information and not having to
Mhm.
explain myself. It's like, nah, girl, I can't make it. But
Mhm.
I back next month. Like I
Right.
ain't even trying to tell you what it's gonna be. I'm just gonna I hit you back next month.
Yeah, I was just thinking about like the daily practices that kind of keep you centered and grounded in the vein of mindfulness and meditation, and like how do you come back to your center when life is lifing, you know? Um, I have a practice that I follow, but I want to be very honest in that I'm not always consistent in my practice, but I know where it is. So
Yeah,
there was a time that I was extremely consistent, and it was during stressful times in my life when I was going through a lot, really hard time in my marriage, going through, the process of divorce. I locked in on some of these practices, and that's kind of what helped me get through it. And the practice that I'm talking about is like, right now, what I do is in the morning, I wake up, the first thing I do getting out of bed is at least 10 minutes meditation, followed by prayer and devotion. Typically takes me about 30 minutes to finish that entire practice. Um, and there was a time that I needed to be extremely consistent in it because I was going through so much and there was so much tension around me that I needed that constant reminder of who I was and who God was in my life. It's not always easy to find God in the middle of your day when you got so much going on. And it takes intentionality for you to pause and remind yourself of where He is. This
agreed.
practice, like early in the morning when it was silent and still and there was nobody moving around and there was no noise and it's just you and God, those are the moments that I use my preference for when I can really focus in on God and talk to Him about what's going on with me. Um, but even in my inconsistency, I find myself going to that place and knowing when I haven't been there. So many times when I start to overthink and my thoughts are going in too much and the things that are going on in life is starting to affect me negatively, I can typically go back to the fact that you haven't been starting your day the way you normally do.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
the process of starting my day the way I start my day is for grounding and centering. So it's almost like that first fruits, like reminder of who's first in your life. A part of that is me, a part of that is God, and I put those things first. And
Yeah.
then everything else flows from that space, and that's kind of how I set up my day. Um, and that's where I go when things have gotten a little bit crazy. And I'll tell you, and if I start spinning, I'm spinning. So if I start overthinking it, I'm overthinking. I'm in the thick of it. But then there's usually this moment, and this goes back to your experiences and how you start to trust God. Even in my spinning, there's a moment that says to me, "You need to get back, go back to the beginning." And I go back, and I'm like, this is what I was missing, and it helps me to kind of recenter and kind of structure my day back to where it needed to. And what I mean by structure my day back, because there's circumstances that I don't control, it helps me to remember the parts that I can. Um, and that's the part that I focus on, and it prevents me from getting too lost. So, what kind of practices do you have in place that that you utilize that kind of recenters you when things are getting a little chaotic?
I think some of the same. So that is something that has been like routine. That has been a word that has been, um, and I think for us high achievers, that can also be a trigger, right? Because there's something else to do. But I have made my morning routine just so simple,
Mm-hmm.
and so I hop out of bed, um, and well, no, I fall out of bed and I just fall to my knees.
Mm.
So that's the first thing I do, and I don't. There's not a time limit, so I've taken off those constraints. Like I need this beat. So anything that will end with me saying I need to. I'm in this season. I'm like, there's no need to. You just get on your knees and just be vulnerable, right? So, kind of, I'm practicing stillness, right?
Mhm.
I'm practicing slowing down, and that's what getting on my knees is about. It just gives me a moment to just slow down before I gotta start going and hit the brakes. But what I'm realizing is I find myself slowing down in every area. So um, I'm on my knees and whatever's on my heart, we like okay, this is what it is, God. Um, I have not because I'm usually like I need to. So I had these alarms set like I need to be up at this time. So there, of course, 2 days a week because I'm podcasting and we had the other meeting. But the other days I'm like, when you wake up, you wake up because you just
Mhm.
went to sleep, first of all,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
Went to sleep. Um, and so, but that is the first thing I do. It's just spending that time and being vulnerable. And the more that I do that, so at first it was the complaining and the oh my God, and blah blah blah. But I'm realizing now, um, it's just the quietness and like I'm saying, like God, what is on my heart? What do I? Who do I? And I allow people to come to my mind, and I'm like, I'm concerned about them. Uh, I just Lord bless them, watch over them, and hmm, today I may be scared, or I got this client coming up, and or can you help me navigate this? And oh, I'm really grateful for this. So it's just turning into this time where I'm just practicing the stillness and getting still. And then the other thing that I like to do is just pull my devotional out. So just a time. And some days I will pull my devotional out, and I may spend an hour in it. Some days I may spend 5 minutes in it. And so it's just whatever I need,
Mhm.
whatever and so, but I want to be mindful of just creating the routine. Um, and I think that that has been so helpful to anchor my day in His presence and anchor my day in His Word. And then at night, because I'm like, okay, I want to be more active and read my Bible and understand His Word, um, and so my goal is just to read a chapter.
Mhm.
And so I lay and I read a chapter. Lately, I've been reading because I'm like, now what? And so I found, but there is no I have to. So
Right.
I'm learning to take off the have to, need to, must, right, wrong in this
Right.
season. I am just,
Mhm.
and the more that I do that, I feel like that is me casting out that.
Love it.
It's like I ain't got nothing but
Mhm.
that's not like I trust you. So here it is. Um, and I'm just throwing it out the way it look. Um, and I think a lot of times we're looking for the more in the tangible things.
Mhm.
But even as I'm talking about this, because I always say, like, I'm like, I want to be one of them old women who, like, I just want to be like really graceful, and I want to be me. And sometimes I ain't always graceful. I'm just gonna say that. Uh, but I want to just have this grace and this space and this peace as I age, uh, where when people are in my presence, it's just a calming and everybody
Mhm.
can just be who they are. And we enjoy each other. And I feel like this season God is gifting me with just being still to just to know me and
Mhm.
I'm getting to know myself and just even when I walk when walking, usually it's always us, Lord Jesus, us overachievers. It ain't a bad thing, but it's just you like I got to let me beat my time and then how do
Right.
I need to. But yesterday I was just like, girl, I had my Uggs, 80-degree weather, and I was
Yeah.
just walking. and
Get
looking
outside.
around. I'm like, this is a really nice neighborhood.
Yeah, I think what I hear you say, and when I'm thinking about how we do this, because sometimes it sounds so complicated. I know for me, when I used to hear people talk about reading their Bible or meditating or doing anything, it sounded like it was just so complicated. Like, how am I supposed to take in all of this word? And how am I supposed to find the time to do this? And I'm supposed to sit still for how long? It sounded so complicated. What I hear you say and when I hear me saying right now is this process of mindfulness practice and meditation and prayer and even reading your Bible. It really is what fits and works for you. And I think the core to all of it is finding a way to value and spend time with the two most important people in your entire life, and that's you and God. And because everything flows from you, and every relationship is grounded and rooted based on your relationship that you have with God. Like, it's every relationship flows from that relationship. And so prioritizing you and prioritizing God has this way of aligning your life in its proper perspective. And it doesn't take
Mhm.
4 hours of prayer and meditation to align. What it takes is consistency, one, but then authenticity, two. Because if you don't bring authenticity to your practice, God won't be able to relate to who you are. He's relating to me, not you. If you go take my practice, then that's the way God relates to me. But the idea of knowing who you are and understanding who you are and all of your little idiosyncrasies and all of your emotions and all of your experiences is so that you can better relate with God and others, right? So
Yeah.
this whole process is like, what's going to work for me? I may only have 5 minutes in the morning. What do I do with that five? Honor you, honor God,
Yes.
move from that space. I don't have time in the morning. I fall out the bed. Now, some of that, let me just say, ladies, some of that is that you're not managing your time very well. And so, if you get better managing your time, you will find space for you to honor you and God. And so you may be the middle of the day type person where your mornings are chaotic and your pause is at lunch. And you may not even have a pause until you are able to walk outside for your 15-minute break. What I'm saying is prioritize you and prioritize God in that 15 minutes. Even if it's
Hmm.
walking around the building, honor who you are and honor who God is for you. And in this process of devotion, um, was also a hang up for me. I'm just like, okay, how do I devote time? Like, what is this? I have a devotional that I use consistently. I've been using it for 3 or 4 years now, the same one. And it's literally a page of devotion that speaks to me and to my relationship with God, and the scripture reading tied to that conversation that I'm having with him in that moment.
Hmm.
I think for me, the thing that is wavering for me is journaling. So there are times when I journal heavy. There are times when I don't, and I'm like you when it comes to it, Tasha. Like, or I'm like, today I don't feel like journaling, so I'm not going to. Today I really feel like I need to write something down, so I am. And there's no, you gotta make sure you journal all the time, every day, try to jot down. But when it's important, there's something that I really feel like I need to put on paper, I do. And that's the way it works for me. So everybody has their own way. We're all having our own experiences. Don't feel like you have to box yourself in. When you're hearing people give you ideas, these are ideas.
Yes.
Utilize them as such, not as matter of fact for you. Try it. If it works out, didn't quite work out for me. I need to switch it. I need to tweak it based on your relationship with God, so that you can be rooted and grounded in those relationships, and everything else can flow from that space. Like, that's more than
Hmm.
anything, I want people to understand that, because this is not a make sure you wake up at 4 a.m., get on your knees for an hour, and then no, it's more like, this is what works for me.
Yes. No,
You
that's
know.
good. That is so good. No, honestly, because there are sometimes I roll out, I get out the bed and I'm on my knees and I realize like, oh, it's time to wait, wake my little up. So like I got 2 minutes real quick. But even so, this blessed me because what I've been seeing lately is I'll see her get out the bed and do the same thing. So just the
Mhm.
modeling of it.
Mhm.
And so because right, that's another thing on my to-do list. I'm like, Jesus, she gotta know you. Like if if ain't nothing else in this thing I do as a mother important, like
Yeah.
I just and
Gotta
I'm like,
know you.
I don't know how to do this, but the modeling of it. And you talked about the time management, so I want to go back to that because I'm talking about me. And the
Mhm.
reason that I didn't fit in time is because I was doing all of the stuff, right? I was trying to do and control and taking on other people's stuff and not having boundaries and not saying no. So I didn't have a lot of time. I did not have, so everything was rushed. So even y'all pray for me, pray for your girl, because I was setting time, right?
Yes.
Because they say you're supposed to pray, then you be quiet. So I'm gonna set this time for 7 minutes. Okay, God, I've been quiet for 7 minutes, and now you heard you say nothing. Okay, I'm doing another 2 minutes, Lord. Let me see if you go talk. Okay, God,
Right.
we ain't got time because I got to move on.
Exactly. Exactly.
But even though I'm tired, I have so much peace. Like my mind is free of clutter, and I'm not trying to resolve anything. I'm not trying to figure out anything. Um, if I'm having conversations, I got to catch up with an old friend, and I just got to do it, and not. I just got to be in the conversation, and I
Mhm.
wasn't trying to do 50 things at once. Right? I was cooking dinner, but still, like I was just able to cook and be in the conversation and not be in my mind like, oh my God, I need to be spending time with Bianca. And I'm like, no, like, oh, just have this conversation and enjoy it. So even though I'm exhausted and I don't know, I'm just putting one foot in front of the other. Um, I have this peace, and it takes me back to the do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, present your request to God. Um, and what I'm learning is to be specific with their petition.
Mhm.
This is what I would like for it to look like, God, and more, or more, this or
Mhm.
more.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm just gonna cast out my net, and I'm gonna keep it moving. I'm gonna trust. I'm gonna trust
Mhm.
that you gonna fill it up, but what needs to happen. Um, and so I'm learning different principles, my character, so some character building. Because I'm thinking like if I had 20 employees, right, which is the goal at some point, I'm like, Chad, you got to find a practice, you got to find some peace because you got to be worried about everybody, and that- you could be concerned, but you can't be to the point where you unhealthy. And so I'm grateful. I'm grateful for this season. I probably wouldn't have said this 2 weeks ago,
Mhm.
but today I am grateful. Um, and I don't know. I'm choosing. I am making a choice
Mhm.
to trust.
To trust. That's good. That's good. I think that's all good. The wavering of sometimes you feel it and you know you good, and there's some moments where you don't. That's okay too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, Sometimes you feel really close to God, and sometimes He feels far away. That's also okay.
Yes.
Um, Sometimes you feel like you're getting it and it's making sense. Sometimes it ain't gonna feel that way. That's also okay. What we have
Mm-hmm.
to understand is that we are not the divine. We are humans that need the divine. And if you start believing that you are a God, you'll start trying to be your own God. And then you will be operating from a place of perfection. And the
Yes.
truth is, there is no such thing. So that means you're actually operating as a fool, because
Mm-hmm.
only a fool
Mm-hmm.
believes that they can do something they can't actually do.
Do not be wise in your own
your own
eyes.
eyes. So the human part of you says you need a divine God, which means there's no way you could be perfect, but He is. And so breathe. You're not going to get it right every time. And when you don't get it right, you actually learned the lesson, so you got it right. And, you know, in the moments where you can breathe and pause, do it. Remind
Hmm.
yourself of who you are, who God is. I said this to my sister the other day. The only thing that I regret, and I don't regret much, is not knowing who I was sooner.
Mm. Mm.
Um, because there were a lot of people who believed something about me that I didn't believe, and then in that conversation, I said, but I'm still grateful because even though I was a blank slate, and there were impressions and images that people could just put on me because I felt like a blank slate, not having my identity. God always graced me with people who told me the great things about me. There were always people telling me, "You're smart, girl. You wise. Like you know, you set apart. You a trophy. You." And I believed all of those things. And so even though I didn't have the foundational father figure and things of that nature, there were always people imprinting beautiful things about me. And I found gratitude even in that moment,
Yeah, no,
you
absolutely.
know. But I am very clear today, sitting here on this podcast, that I'm not the divine. I have a divine, holy being that lives and dwells within me, but I am a makeup of three parts. He is all powerful, all divine,
Mm. All knowing. Yes.
all knowing. I, myself, live an unmanageable life without his presence. And I
Yeah.
lean heavily on that knowledge. You are not God. If you were God, you would need him. I need him. I know I do. The fact that
Oh.
I just told y'all that, we said 2 weeks ago I wouldn't have been able to say this today, I can't tell you that I am in need of a divine God. And I'm clear
Hmm.
on that. I tell you, that's something I'm clear on. I'm clear that my life is vanity without him. So
Yeah.
that
No,
means that I'll
that's
always go back to him because I know that I need him. And if you can just get that and understand the fact that you don't have control of all things tells you that there's a divine God that does, and he never intended on you to have control anyway.
yeah.
Truly,
That's good.
truly, there's peace in that. If you
No.
can find, there's
Yes.
peace in knowing that I don't have to control everything. I am not God. I do not have a God complex. I know that I ain't in control of you. Sometimes I ain't even in control of me. That's why God tells you don't judge your own self. He tells you do not even judge you. You don't know the plans I have for you. How can you judge your life? That's the reason why he said that. And guess what? I am one of them. As listen, white flag, sir. You in control.
I surrender. I surrender.
I
No,
surrender it all.
that's
White flag
you know,
over here.
and I think that that is the season that I'm in. As I was listening to you talk, because I don't know. I know God is here, but there's not like this close. There's seasons where you can feel and hear, and you like. I'm not in this season. I have no clue.
Hmm.
I don't know what happened. What they are. I am on a trust walk. Um, and I think that that is the what I'm grateful for. Because I think this is the first time in my life that I can remember that I have been not trying to control, and um, I threw a whole 2-year-old tantrum in January. Um, it's this I think it was on TikTok and Instagram. And so it's like this duck waddling back. And it was like me going back to tell God, I'm sorry, I thought through that tantrum. Like, okay, okay,
Right.
um, but just the process, right? So going from the tantrum to now kind of being still and God and those tantrums did not make God respond. He was like he's still like Just do
Mhm.
the last thing I told you to do. Like,
Right.
I'm not changing my answer, which made me think about Bianca because yesterday she wanted something and I was like, no. And she in the car, and I'm like, that does not make me want to give you what you want. Like, even
Mhm.
if I was gonna give it to you, that don't make me want to give it to you. So please stop. I
Mhm.
just said it's no right now
Mhm.
because I know that what you asking for, if I give it to you, it's not beneficial for you right now.
Mhm.
So no, and that tantrum and all of that makes me want to give it to you less.
Mhm.
Uh, so I was like, I'm talking to myself. So
Right.
no, and so I'm like, okay, let me just. All right, this is where we at, and I don't know. I have no idea what's happening. Um, I'm just gonna do what I need to do, or what he's told me to do. And so I've done all the things, and so there's nothing else for me to do with my hands.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so I'm just like, all right, I will receive this season.
Mhm.
I will receive it.
Mhm.
And so I think that is the challenge, is the art of stillness. And I put that on my vision board, and I don't know what I thought it meant when I put it on there. I definitely didn't think it was gonna mean this.
Right.
But
Mhm.
like, especially for us women who are we busy, we doing all the things, and we making things happen, and we want to be good stewards of our time and our resources, and we want to do the things that God create, the things that God are asking us to create, and um, operate at this high level that's just natural for us. But there's also just a grace and a blessing in the stillness.
Mhm.
And what I'm realizing is that the gift will trigger the part of you that has been operating from a place of control. And
Mhm.
so my hopes is that I this season helps me understand the balance of life.
Yep.
Um,
And it will.
yeah, and that is my hope, is that I will understand how to balance it
Mhm.
and have and be and do and enjoy and not miss the moments. I've missed so many moments trying to achieve. Um, I can just school, like I'm just trying to graduate, and so I just miss the moment. I'm just trying to be a parent, and so I'm missing the 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 year old. Like, oh my God, I wish you get old enough. And now I'm looking at the 10 year old, and I'm like, oh my God,
Mhm.
I think I missed when you were 3 and 4 and 5 because I was
Mhm.
just trying, you know, um, missing marriage. You're 1 and 2 because you like, oh, I can't wait till we get to. And so I'm just missing so much trying to get to the done, whatever that looks like. And so I'm just appreciating the moments. And so that is my
Okay.
challenge to you all, and in the mindfulness of letting go, is letting go of whatever coping, being mindful of those coping mechanisms that you operate in when life is chaotic and you trying to figure it out, and creating a routine. Um, I love what you said, so that you can understand who you are authentically, so that God is able to create and design things that are authentically for you. The vulnerability,
Mhm.
that is something that I've had to be vulnerable with, how I feel, and just say how I feel. Um,
Mhm.
so that we can learn how to live and embrace this stillness and slow down and appreciate and just be in the moment, um, as God continues to bless us and we go from glory to glory to glory.
Mhm. Yes, that's great. That's a really good way to end it all in this podcast. It's just exactly what you said. I couldn't have said it any better. Um, the most important relationship you have is the one you have with you and the one you have with God. And if you can prioritize those two relationships, everything else will flow from it. That's
Yes.
all I would add.
All right. So you ready to let it go? All
I'm ready to let go. Let's let it
right,
go.
guys. Thank you for joining us today, and we will see you next week.
Bye bye.